She was just a waitress, until one phone call in Mandarin exposed a 20-year corporate cover-up, a father she thought was dead, and the truth that her mother had been framed for a $40 million fraud. Lena Carter never meant to uncover one of the biggest scandals in business history. But when family, justice, and love collided, she chose to risk everything. What would you do if your last name held a secret powerful enough to destroy empires? Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to The Heart of Truth for more stories that will leave you breathless. Lena Carter moved with quiet grace through the hushed elegance of the Glass Garden, Manhattan's latest obsession among the elite. With her dark ponytail neatly tied and her crisp black uniform blending seamlessly into the restaurant's marble and chrome aesthetic, she was meant to disappear into the background, an invisible cog in a gleaming machine. And most nights, she did. She took pride in her efficiency, in anticipating diners' needs before they voiced them, in being unnoticed. But tonight, something shifted. She was carrying a tray of Dom Perignon when her phone vibrated sharply in her pocket. Not now, she thought, balancing the bottle with one hand and setting down a crystal flute with the other. It buzzed again, 3 times in quick succession. Her heart sank. Only one place had that pattern: the hospital. She forced herself to stay composed, ignoring the dread curling in her stomach. Another step, another smile. At table 9, the host had just seated a group of 3, 2 sharply dressed men and a woman whose diamond earrings nearly blinded her as they caught the light. One of the men glanced her way, distracted. Lena registered the angular jawline, the impossibly well-cut suit, and eyes that missed nothing. Nathan Cross. The name echoed in her memory like a bell. CEO of Cross Enterprises, a man who'd built an empire on mergers, reputation, and unshakable control. He shouldn't have known she existed, and he wouldn't, if not for what happened next. As Lena stepped away from the table, her phone buzzed a 4th time. She ducked quickly behind the service station and answered in a whisper. "Hello?" A rapid stream of Mandarin poured through the speaker. It wasn't the hospital. It was May, her old language exchange partner from Beijing. "Lena, thank God. The licensing documents are wrong. The terms don't match the previous version. Have you seen Clause 17? Something's off." Lena blinked, confused. "What are you talking about? I'm not involved in that project." May kept speaking, flustered. "You haven't read the new draft? The technical language changed overnight. Someone's tampering with the data." "Wait," Lena said, switching to flawless assertive Mandarin. "You have the wrong person. I'm not part of any licensing negotiation. I'm a student. I wait tables. This must be a mistake." There was silence on the line, then a rushed apology before the call ended. She turned to find Nathan Cross watching her. No, watching her wasn't the right word. Studying her. For the first time in her career, a powerful client actually saw her. "You speak Mandarin?" he asked, his voice low but unmistakably intrigued. "Yes," she replied carefully. "I studied linguistics before life got in the way." His gaze narrowed. "Not just conversational Mandarin. You use technical terminology, contract language." Lena shrugged, uncomfortable under the scrutiny. "It's what I specialized in, before I had to leave university." Nathan exchanged a quick glance with the man beside him, whose tablet was already out, fingers flying across the screen. A second later, he looked up. "Mr. Cross," he said quietly, "you need to see this." Nathan stepped forward and handed her a sleek, embossed card. "My office. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Don't be late." Lena stared at it. "Cross Enterprises. Executive level." This had to be a joke. "I have a morning shift at the care facility," she said cautiously. "My mother's treatment schedule." "Cancel it," Nathan said, already turning away. "This will be worth your time." By the time she returned to the kitchen, Lena's hands were shaking. She had a job offer she hadn't asked for, a secret phone call she didn't understand, and the unsettling sense that her life had just split into before and after. The elevator doors opened with a muted chime, revealing the sleek and intimidating expanse of Cross Enterprises' top floor. Lena Carter stepped out cautiously, clutching the straps of her worn leather bag, her sneakers whispering against the polished floors. She felt entirely out of place. Her borrowed blazer barely masked the fatigue in her bones after caring for her mother that morning. Everyone around her looked like they'd stepped out of a corporate fashion magazine. But Lena straightened her shoulders and moved forward. This wasn't about fitting in. This was about survival. A man waited near the glass reception desk, tall and lean, with tousled brown hair and the same sharp blue eyes as Nathan Cross, though softer, more curious. "Lena Carter?" he asked, stepping forward with a polite smile. "I'm Caleb, Nathan's younger brother. I'll be helping you get settled." She shook his hand, surprised by the warmth in his grip. "Nice to meet you," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Caleb led her through a maze of glass-walled offices and collaborative spaces until they reached a compact room filled with dictionaries, reference books, and a blinking laptop. "Here's your war room," he joked lightly. "Nathan wants you to start familiarizing yourself with the technical specs for the Shanghai negotiations, semiconductor integration, IP licensing, all that fun stuff." Lena nodded, taking it all in. "I can handle it. I'm just a little surprised I'm here." "You and me both," Caleb replied, then added with a chuckle. "Not that you're not qualified, your Mandarin is incredible. But my brother doesn't usually make impulsive hires." That made her pause. "So why now?" Caleb's expression shifted, something unreadable passing through his eyes. "You'll have to ask him. Though if I had to guess, you startled him. That doesn't happen often." He left her to work, and for hours, Lena pored over spreadsheets, technical manuals, and translated specs. She felt herself slipping into a rhythm she hadn't known she missed: the academic challenge, the puzzle-solving nature of language, the weight of getting every nuance right. Somewhere between Clause 12 and a patent breakdown, her phone buzzed. It was from Dr. Walter Reed. "Progress report, Lena. Don't forget your mother's next treatment depends on your cooperation." She swallowed hard, fingers trembling as she typed back. "Preparing. Nothing sensitive yet. Will update when I can." She deleted the thread immediately. That night, after most of the office had emptied, Lena remained, her eyes stinging with exhaustion. She reached for a binder and noticed something odd. One of the archive references listed an internal accounting file under her mother's old name, Angela Carter, Cross Enterprises Employee ID A427. Her breath caught. That couldn't be right. Her mother had never mentioned working here. Driven by a need she couldn't explain, Lena made her way to the lower archive floor. A quiet, dimly lit space filled with old filing cabinets. Security was light, and her new badge, possibly due to oversight, granted her access. She moved quickly, scanning labels until she found it. Accounting, 2000 to 2010. Angela Carter's file was thick. Inside were performance reviews, payroll logs, and correspondence with upper management, most notably with Martin Hale, now the company's COO. Lena flipped through until her hand froze on a headline clipped from a financial journal. Cross Enterprises survives financial scandal. Accountant vanishes after $40 million fraud. Angela Carter, her mother, accused of stealing millions and fleeing the scene. "No," Lena whispered, her pulse roaring in her ears. Her mother had scrubbed toilets, picked up night shifts, begged for treatment programs. None of it fit this narrative. She took out her phone and snapped photos of everything. A sudden creak made her spin. Caleb stood at the doorway, a shadow under the flickering light. "You're not supposed to be down here." Lena's voice shook. "Did you know my mother worked here?" He stepped inside, his eyes narrowing as he looked past her to the open file. "I suspected. My father used to talk about a scandal he cleaned up, said it nearly ruined the company." "She didn't steal that money," Lena said firmly. "She was framed." Caleb looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Let's find out the truth." Shanghai shimmered beneath a thick veil of humidity and neon, its skyline slicing into the night like a vision from the future. Lena Carter stared out the window of the 35th floor hotel suite, half-dazed from jet lag and adrenaline. She should have been overwhelmed. Thousands of miles from home, embedded in the most important business deal of Cross Enterprises history. But her mind was fixated on a different kind of puzzle. Her mother's file, the accusations, and the name she'd seen linked beside Angela Carter in those grainy old documents. W. Jiang, Wei Jiang, it had haunted her ever since. A knock pulled her from thought. Nathan Cross stood in the doorway, his crisp white shirt undone at the collar, sleeves rolled. He looked tired but sharp as always. "Get some rest," he said, glancing at her open laptop and the stack of translation notes. "We've got a full schedule tomorrow." "I'm fine," she replied, not looking away from the screen. "You're not," he said more gently, but you will be. She didn't know what to make of that, of him. Sometimes he was cold and unreadable, all business. Other times he let something slip, like now, a crack in the armor. Lena nodded faintly, and he left without pressing further. Later that night, she received a text from a blocked number. East Garden. Private conversation. Come alone. She hesitated only a moment before slipping into a jacket and leaving through the back stairs. The East Garden at Lungtech headquarters was quiet, framed by bamboo and lit with soft lanterns. A solitary figure stood beneath the largest tree, back turned, hands clasped. He was older now, gray at the temples, lines around his eyes, but Lena knew that profile. She'd seen it in a photo her mother kept buried in a drawer for years. "Mr. Jean?" she asked in Mandarin. He turned slowly. "Lena," he said, switching to English, his voice shaking with quiet awe. "You look like her." Lena's knees nearly gave out. "You can't be. My father died. There was a funeral." "There was a casket," Wei Zhang said, "but no body." She stared at him, breath caught somewhere between disbelief and fury. "Why? To keep you both safe?" He gestured toward a bench. "May I explain?" She sat, but left space between them. Wei unfolded a tale she could barely absorb, how he'd been an independent investigator tracking money laundering tied to Cross Enterprises, how he'd discovered a network of shell companies managed by Kenneth Cross and Martin Hale. When he gathered evidence and prepared to go public, photos of Angela and newborn Lena arrived in an unmarked envelope. A threat. A promise. So he vanished, faking his death, slipping into China where his ancestry gave him cover and time. "I've watched from afar," he said. "Paid for your early schooling, the experimental treatments your mother needed. I never stopped protecting you." Lena was silent for a long time. "You let us think you were dead. And that pain," he said, eyes glassy, "is something I will carry until my last breath." The wind stirred between them, rustling the bamboo like whispers of the past. "My mother was framed," she finally said. "The files." "I know," Wei cut in. "Angela found irregularities in the books and brought them to Kenneth. She thought she was doing the right thing. Instead, she became their scapegoat." Lena stood abruptly, pacing. "Why tell me this now? Why summon me here?" "Because Nathan Cross is unknowingly standing on the same corrupted foundation his father built. Martin Hale is continuing the operation through this new merger. The deal you're translating is a smokescreen for financial crimes." She turned to him. "And what do you want from me?" "To help expose them. I have evidence, but I need someone inside. Someone they trust." "I'm just an interpreter," Wei stood. "No. You're my daughter, and you're already in." Her phone buzzed. "Dr. Reed. Update? You're running out of time. We're adjusting your mother's protocol. Your cooperation determines everything." Lena's stomach turned. Her real father stood before her. But the man holding her mother's life in his hands was still thousands of miles away, and she was caught between them. Truth, loyalty, and survival threading a noose around her future. Rain lashed against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the hotel suite, streaking the glass like frantic brushstrokes. Lena Carter sat at the edge of a velvet armchair, translating a section of the semiconductor proposal while pretending not to notice Nathan pacing behind her. He hadn't said much since the meeting with Lungtech executives that afternoon, but she could feel the tension coiling in the room, heavy and silent. "They're hiding something," he finally muttered. Lena looked up. "The specs." Nathan tossed a printed page onto the table. "The production figures in the Mandarin version don't match the English draft. The decimal shift changes everything. Either they're inflating their capacity, or someone is sabotaging the deal from both ends," she finished softly. Their eyes met. The moment hung there, one of recognition, of shared instinct. He sat down across from her, leaning forward. "Victoria thinks you're feeding information to our competitors," he said without flinching. Lena's stomach twisted. "She told you that?" "She doesn't trust easily, especially not someone who appeared right before the biggest deal of my career." "And you?" she asked, voice tight. "Do you trust me?" Nathan hesitated, then said, "I want to." The admission hit her harder than she expected. She dropped her gaze to the translation, unable to keep the war inside her from bleeding into her voice. "My mother's been moved." Nathan blinked. "What?" "She was transferred from the care facility this morning. Dr. Reed claims it's for an advanced treatment protocol, but I never signed anything. No authorization, no warning." His jaw clenched. Where is she now? I don't know. Reed isn't answering calls. I think... She paused, breath catching. I think he's using her to control me, to make me deliver him information about the merger. Nathan stood abruptly, crossing to the window. Thunder growled in the distance. You should have told me sooner. I couldn't risk it, she said, rising too. He said if I jeopardized the deal, she'd be cut off. Do you know what it's like to watch your parent die cell by cell while someone dangles hope like a leash? His face softened, but only just. Yes, he said quietly. My mother died of ALS when I was 15. My father didn't even come home for the funeral. He was too busy securing another offshore deal. Lena's voice dropped. Your father is part of it. Martin Hale too. The entire infrastructure, money laundering, shell companies, it's all built into the merger. He turned, eyes dark with realization. You've seen evidence? My father showed me. She swallowed hard. Wei Zhang, he's alive. He's been working for 20 years to expose them, and he needs me to help. Nathan stared at her as though she were unraveling before his eyes. The man leading Lung Tech? No, she said quickly. That's a cover. He built a legitimate business, yes, but the real goal was leverage, to finally destroy the system that destroyed us. And you believe him? Nathan asked. I believe my mother, she whispered. She lived with the guilt of something she didn't do, and now she may not live much longer. There was a long pause. Then Nathan said, I'm going to help you. Lena blinked. What? We'll find her. We'll get Reed off your back. And if what you're saying is true, if my company is built on a lie, I'll help bring it down. Before she could answer, her laptop lit up with an incoming call. Caleb's face appeared, eyes wide with urgency. She's been moved to a private clinic upstate. I found the route. I'm working on a plan to extract her safely. Nathan stepped closer to the screen. Does Hale know? He suspects something. He's ramping up damage control. Lena's phone buzzed again. A new message from Reed. Final warning. Phase 1 must begin tonight, or your mother doesn't make it to morning. She stared at the screen, feeling the walls close in. The only way forward was through fire. And she wasn't sure who would come out the other side. The air inside the press room buzzed with tension, every camera lens and microphone angled toward the small podium at the front. Lena Carter stood behind the curtain, her heart thudding so hard it almost drowned out the chatter of the assembled media. Beyond the velvet barrier was the culmination of everything. 20 years of secrets, one explosive truth, and the people she now stood beside, all forever changed. Next to her, Nathan Cross adjusted the cuff of his blazer, the faint bandage under his shirt sleeve a stark reminder of how close they'd come to losing everything. Wei Zhang, her father, stood with arms crossed, flanked by legal counsel, his usually calm demeanor steeled with resolve. They were here not just to speak, they were here to testify. It hadn't been easy getting to this moment. The night before, they'd landed in New York, just hours after Caleb successfully extracted Angela Carter from the remote facility. She was weak but alive, her hand clutching Lena's as if to ground herself to the world again. She hadn't said much, just whispered, "You're free now," before slipping into a deep sleep. It was all Lena needed to hear. The evidence was ironclad. Cross-referenced documents, wire transfers, doctored spreadsheets, encrypted communications, painstakingly gathered by Wei and Derek over years, and now verified by federal authorities. George Hale was in custody. Clara Bell had flipped, accepting immunity in exchange for full disclosure of her father's crimes. Reed's clinic had been shut down, its licenses revoked. His name was now synonymous with medical extortion and fraud. But the headlines that morning weren't about them. They were about Nathan Cross, the son of Kenneth Cross, CEO of a billion-dollar corporation, standing at the edge of a cliff and choosing to jump. "Are you ready?" he asked Lena quietly. "No," she admitted, then smiled. "But that's never stopped me." When he stepped onto the stage and faced the sea of cameras, the room fell silent. He didn't read from notes. He didn't hide behind corporate jargon. He simply told the truth. "My name is Nathan Cross. I was raised to believe my family built this company with integrity. I now know that wasn't true, and I am here today to dismantle that lie." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Lena watched, breath held, as he detailed the cover-ups, the laundering, the false accusations against Angela Carter, and his father's partnership with Richard Bell and George Hale. He didn't spare himself. admitting that for too long he ignored red flags, placing trust in people who used loyalty as leverage. When he stepped back, Wei took his place. "My name is Wei Zhang. I disappeared for 20 years, not out of fear, but to protect the people I loved, while gathering proof to ensure justice could no longer be buried beneath money and power." Finally, Lena approached the podium. Cameras clicked rapidly, some reporters whispering her name in surprise. "I was a waitress," she began. "I wasn't supposed to be here, but fate has a way of putting the right person in the right place at the wrong time." She shared her journey, how she was recruited by chance, how she uncovered the truth buried in old archive files, how her mother's voice, even in silence, guided her through the chaos. "This isn't just about finance or fraud," she said. "It's about the people left in the wake of those lies. About healing. About starting over." When she stepped back, Nathan took her hand, holding it high for all to see, not as a symbol of victory but of unity. The days that followed were a whirlwind. Sullivan Industries' stock dipped, then stabilized as shareholders absorbed the overhaul. Nathan temporarily stepped down. Caleb assumed the interim CEO role, with Lena leading the newly formed Ethics and Compliance Division. Angela Carter passed away quietly in her sleep 2 weeks later, but not before smiling and whispering, "You did it." 1 year later, Lena stood beneath the spring sun in a quiet cemetery beside her father and Caleb, a small life beginning to stir within her. Her hand instinctively covered her belly. "She would have been proud," Caleb said. "She is," Lena replied. "I can feel it." Nathan approached from behind, slipping an arm around her waist. "Ready?" he asked. She nodded, voice steady. "Ready to build something better." They walked forward together, no longer running from the past, but finally stepping into the light of a future they chose. Sometimes the truth doesn't scream, it waits, hidden beneath boardroom gloss, corporate press releases, or the quiet pain of a mother working 2 jobs to survive. This story reminds us that truth, no matter how long it's buried, has a way of rising. It may take years. It may take courage from the most unexpected person. But when someone decides to stand up for justice, for family, for what's right, the ripple effect can bring down empires and rebuild lives. Lena Carter wasn't a CEO, a lawyer, or a politician. She was a waitress with a sick mother, a fractured past, and an impossible choice. But her willingness to question what didn't add up, to risk everything for the truth, made all the difference. In a world where power often protects the powerful, her story proves that integrity still matters, and that no name, no title, no legacy is above accountability. It's also a lesson in forgiveness. Nathan Cross could have defended his father's sins or ignored the evidence. Instead, he chose transparency and transformation. Together, they showed that healing isn't about forgetting the past. It's about confronting it, learning from it, and choosing a better future. So wherever you are in the world, whether you're working late nights, chasing a dream, or carrying your own family's history, remember this. Truth has power. And sometimes, just one voice is enough to change everything. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. We'd love to know where our community is growing. And don't forget to subscribe to The Heart of Truth for more powerful stories just like this one.